What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Temple Talk. You know what time it is. My name is John McLeod. Today, we have an amazing guest. As always, before we get into it, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. There's going to be a lot of amazing stories coming out through Temple Talk, and I want to make sure that you can get in on the action, learn things, learn from people's stories like you're about to learn today, and just continue to share it because God is doing some amazing things with amazing people, and they're all over the world. And if He allows me, I am going to be right there to broadcast them to you today. So make sure you follow us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok. Hang with us. We got a lot of stuff offering and a lot of people to put on display like my main man we got today. Today, you saw the thumbnail up front. This black belt is phenomenal. If you didn't know which one he was, putting it up back on the screen, he's the guy wrapped around the guy in the blue. You can see his black belt a little bit peeking out from the top right corner. But he's the guy somehow airborne over this guy in the blue. Phenomenal athlete, amazing person, even better person. I'm so honored to have him. Welcome in my brother for life and friend, Greg Runfola. Hold on one second, my man. There he is. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Man,
We up?
welcome to
We
the
good?
show.
Yeah. Honored to be here, my friend. Long time in the making. Looking
Yes, man.
forward to this conversation.
Yeah, man. We've been friends for a lot of years, and I've been blessed to be by his side through college, grad school, and origin story for us is I did a story. I was trying to do a story on on him, and he initially uh, sent me to some friends of his were who are on TV today. So it still would have been a great story, but somehow God always knows what the better story is. And the better story then and now was Greg's. Greg is a phenomenal teacher when it comes to physical education. This guy studied at the highest level with so many amazing people. So I was blessed to work out with be trained by one of the people that trained him, who's the mad scientist, Dr. Davidson. But the day I met, from the day I met you, he's been amazing. Greg, let's jump straight into it, man. Talk to me about your journey in becoming a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Uh, so I was like 15, 16, and uh, my friend, we were at my friend's house, and they put this is VHS. I'm showing my age. We used to put tapes into TVs to watch stuff, and uh, it was brought to him by, he was the legitimate martial artist. It was to his to be brother-in-law. But he was trained kung fu and all this stuff, and he's like, you got to check out this little skinny guy, Royce. This little Brazilian guy, Royce. It's Royce. So we're sitting there, we're watching it, and I was just blown away. Like everything growing up, American Ninja or kickboxer, like all the Chuck Norris, like all these things. Um, Royce was the antithesis of all of that. And can you still hear me?
Yeah,
Sorry,
definitely.
calls were coming through. Um, he was the antithesis of everything that we understood in America as a martial artist. So, he didn't really throw a punch or a kick, and that's who he's fighting. Guys that cracking coconuts with their hands and stuff, White Tiger. I'm not knocking anybody's martial art. I'm just saying, like, he was the opposite of what I expected. And that being said, I thought I was looking at kinesthetic. I mean, it was just a mastery of movement, and I was just blown away by it all. Fast forward, my story is actually a little funny. So I was like fast forward like 5 years, and I was a lifeguard at Robin Moses on Long Island, and so I grew up with this girl. She wasn't 5 feet tall. She wasn't 100 pounds, and we're sitting on the stand together, and she's like, my husband. trains jujitsu with this guy Henzo. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And so no joke, I was like, so do something. We got off the stand, and this little tiny girl put me in a guillotine choke, and like the I thought I was gonna die. I was like, how is this even possible? Um, and basically we were on a pursuit for that. So around the corner from my parents' house, I saw a Brazilian American flag, and I thought it was capoeira, so like that music art in Brazil.
Hmm.
Um, it turned out it was the only red belt outside of Brazil was around the corner from my house. So
Wow.
yeah, that's where it began. I went in there, and that's where it all started.
So, it, so you got choked out by somebody half your size, and you were sold.
Not even half my size. Like she's the tiniest thing ever. But yeah, I was like, sign me up for that. So between those two, right? I had like a real world example and the one of the first UFCs we watched. Yeah, I was all in. And I would, of course, having the only red belt outside of Brazil around the corner is like that's the God opened up that door. That's a unique opportunity.
And just so people know, the highest form, the highest level of this art form is the red belt, correct?
Correct.
And
So the
yeah,
highest that sorry.
go ahead, explain it to us.
So ninth degree red belt is the highest that anybody can be from now on. The original masters, like Helio and his brothers, Alio and his brothers, they're 10th degree. And so even though it's a red belt, it's still a black belt. So they're a 10th degree black belt, but that's a red belt. And yeah, I started training under a ninth degree red belt from white to black. That's what I trained under.
That right there is so you were blessed, and and I believe you know this personally, but everybody listening also knows this. God makes no mistakes. He's incredibly strategic about what he does. He put the highest ranking uh, warrior in this sport in the country less than a mile away, less than a mile away,
Amen. Yeah.
knowing that you would use this for his glory and purpose a decade later, over a decade later. That right there,
Uh,
that right there just is mind blowing to me, because when I think about when I think about the way that was all set up, but in the purpose, because we know how, when he's the genius chess master when it comes to life. He'll set a move up that it won't be useful. You'll forget about it, and it won't be useful till 20 years later. That's how powerful and
amen.
strategic our God is. So now, this is before you had any kind of relationship with God. He set you up to train under one of the strongest beings on the planet.
Um, So Mansoor, Master Mansoor, Grandmaster Mansoor, he's retired chief of, he was here on political asylum. So like all these, there's a bunch of nut jobs in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Don't get me wrong. Like it's hard to wrap your head around some of these stories, but Mansoor had 11 bullet holes. He was the retired chief of Rio de Janeiro, and he was a Seventh-day Adventist pastor. Um, I grew up in the church. So from Bayshore Assembly of God to Inspirational Church of Christ Jesus. Um, yeah, I was raised in the church. That's how I want to like put that. So when I met him at that time, I
Yeah.
went to a church here on Long Island, and I'm laughing thinking about myself when I first walked in there. So I was like the violin player in the orchestra. I studied under the pastor's wife, who was a violin teacher, and I had like a ponytail. I had three earrings, and I got to step on the mat. Some guy, I don't even think I saw him again. He was like, "Nah, man, like that's not you got to change that." Like, so my earrings went out. Like, it transformed me that day. And at that time, Mansoor was like this. I mean, oh my, this grandmaster. And that's how unique that situation was. Like, this is 2000, the summer of 2000,
Hmm.
and you know, UFC was not what it was today, and it was just such a rare thing that I stepped into there. Like I trained, his son was a fourth degree black belt, and yeah, they just took me under their wing, and here I am.
That I just that's just genius to me, because I think that is a lifetime choice that you go back to, like, man, I can't sometimes I can't believe that happened. When you made that, it's a huge commitment to be in this sport for as long as you have. Can you talk about, you know, the benefits and maybe some of the struggles of committing to this for all of your life, like you've gone to? Because some people maybe see it and see the glamour of you being a black belt, but there's more to it. So can you talk about, you know, the commitment of being in this sport full time and committing your life to it, and some of the pushback and the struggles you had to go through because you committed to it?
I'd love to say I'm one of these practitioners that was able to balance life and jujitsu. I'm not, and I'm just not that way in general. I can be really good at one thing, but
Mm.
that's it. Like I can't really, not like you, who I'm sure you just came from a different time zone to do this interview. You're always, since the day I met you, it's like I have to run to keep up with you. Um, it was hard. My family was definitely, they wanted more for me, and they didn't really see the wealth fiscally in being a jujitsu instructor, professor. Um, that was hard, and for a good period of my life, I was the guy on the couch, and um, jiu-jitsu is the only thing that mattered. Like, when I was a white belt, and I still have the check that I wrote that probably bounced because I was, again, hard. It was hard getting here. Um, yeah. Um, Nobody rides for free. That's the saying in jiu-jitsu, and you're gonna have to sacrifice something. So you know, people may train through their 20s and stuff like that. And jiu-jitsu is not an art where Brazilian jiu-jitsu is not an art where you just get like a black belt in 2 years. Like you're talking at least 10 years. So people can give their 20s and stuff like that, but then family comes in and like careers come in, and it's really hard to balance. And I didn't balance it well at all. Um, and it was a struggle for a long time. But I always kind of had the mentality that, and maybe this is the way God framed jujitsu in my mind, was just like I wanted to give it back. Like I never paid for a day at jujitsu, and I don't even know why that is, how it turned out that way. But
Wow.
like that, I have that first check. Like they never charged me. Um, and I think maybe because that was my experience, I wanted to, because I knew who I was, and I knew I was afraid. I knew I was scared. I knew I was dealing with mental health things, and jiu-jitsu just became my safe place. There wasn't I can't think of another thing that I started embarked on where I was like, by this age, I'm gonna be this. And the day I walked on that mat, I was like, by the time, you know, I'm 30, I'm a black belt, and it it worked out like that. Praise be to his name. But you know, it to me, being a black belt now means a lot more socially than I'm a champion or anything like that. I don't know if I really answered your question. I
No,
was, I was worried I was gonna do this.
no, like, no. I think you did. Because what I wanted to make sure people understood, like, this was a commitment. This was a life commitment by you, and because you went in this direction and God allowed you to go into this direction, it changed the whole trajectory of who you were. And it wasn't. It's not often. It's not easy. making a life decision that will, has a later payoff. It's also not easy to sell that to a family that only wants the best for you and has an idea of what that looks like. I can imagine the amount of struggle that that was going on in your life when you had a dream and you were in love with this art form and was committed to it. But it didn't give this the kind of security that every parent wants for their child when it comes to business and the things like that. Um, and it's hard to do that. So can you speak to mm, going to training and finding ways like, okay, I want to make sure that my parents know I'm okay, but I also have to follow my heart. Like, how was that?
Yeah, this topic just with me is like it's hard to really put it. Um, I'm all or nothing. So that's a good thing and not at all a good thing. So I gave everything I had to jujitsu. I was passionate about it, and it was consuming my head all day long. How did I balance that? It I didn't do it well. I didn't do it well, and so like I guess I was under Mansour's wing, and I was an instructor. So, I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but he would pay for like my food and like gas and stuff. Like I wasn't making a salary, but I was able to do the art and teach it under the man. And everybody was telling me, you got to step back and look at what you're doing here. Like this is you're running around in pajamas. Like what are you doing? And they're not gonna get it. Um, I think, my reward was, even from the beginning, like just seeing the look on people's faces when you could. So, like I said, like I was going through things like psychologically and, just who I was as a person. I had no confidence in who I was. And man, you know, starting as a white belt and, these gigantic guys on all sorts of supplements or guys that I would be terrified of pre jujitsu. I'll never forget. I went out one time, and these guys were as swole as it gets, and we were just walking on Main Street, and they popped out like, "Oh my God, that guy's so like he's our teacher," and like all my friends looked at me and like, "This is who you're training with?" Like I was like, "Yeah, Um, but that's not what I mean. It's like the kids and the special needs and I don't want to really jump around too much, but that's what I did in the city, and that's what I do here. And me being able to pass that along, that feeling, like I know what it's like to be insecure and not certain. And there's something just very freeing about jujitsu and going through that process, being like, these are guys that I would be scared of, and now in a year time, like these are guys that respect me and what I'm like able to do physically, which just seemed alien to me when I first stepped on those mats.
I think when I hear you say the way it freed you, I think at some point everybody's looking for that. Everybody's looking for the thing that makes them feel amazing and that makes them feel like they have purpose. And the reason why Grandmaster Mansour being under a mile away from you, right around the block from you, was so powerfully important is because God knew you needed that, but more importantly, He knew that once you got it, you'd be able to teach it. So one person getting it affected over 100 people lives being changed. And I know for a fact that you've changed some incredible lives because I did a short piece on you. And one of the pieces that I did on you was you changing the lives of veterans that were looking for partnership, looking for camaraderie, trying to bounce back after, the life of war, the life of, being a Marine, an Army vet, wherever they were in, they were looking for that camaraderie and they were dealing with a lot of mental health things. And they found you and they all said the same thing, and I'll never forget it. When we met Greg and he gave this to us, it absolutely changed our lives. I don't, Most of them responded, I don't know what I'd do if it wasn't for Greg and it wasn't for what he created here. And hearing that over and over absolutely blew me away, because here you went through all the trouble so that you can save guys like that. Guys that have killed, guys that have, handled guns every single days of their lives. And here you are. They were sent to save this country, and here you are saving them. And I think the beauty of that is you went through all of that hell so that somebody else could see what heaven looks like after they've gone through their hell. And there's a level, there is a sermon, there is a story, there is an entire book on the work that you've
Amen.
done there, because it's not hard, it's not easy to do what you've done and commit yourself. And it's that commitment, even when people told you to go get a job, people told you to, to change the course, that you stuck with it. And God allowed you to stick with it because he knew that you were going to change the lives of some amazing people. Now, when I think about this, my next question for you is, talk to me about how you use your gift of being this warrior to teach people. What are the people, how do you use your gift to help teach people? What kind of people do you teach? I know you teach everyone, but talk to me about how you use your gift to help others.
Amen. I was struggling with that question that you asked, and I got to give thanks to God for um, giving me a kingdom mindset when I stepped on those mats. I knew I wasn't making money. I knew I was struggling, but I also knew that this thing was huge, and it could help many. So how do I do that? Um, Specifically in the city. So like I sort of left everything. Master went back to Brazil. Mansoor. When I say Master, people get freaked out sometimes. Mansoor went back to Brazil, and that's sort of. So I'm one of like 7 or 8 black belts that he gave here. Um, so that's the way that this goes. And so the torch was passed to us, and what are we gonna do? Some guys opened up storefronts. Um, some guys just train. Uh, for me, I was always steered into the direction of like non-for-profit and non-for-profit programs, and so I started to embark on that. It was on my heart when I was training with Master in Port Jefferson that I should help special needs, but special needs was just on my heart, regardless of anything. Um, so I would try to make a program there, but when you're under the wing of a grandmaster, it's not easy to do. It's not an open canvas. Like you got to do what the man says. And so when I went to the city, I was I was an adaptive phys ed teacher, so I taught special needs. Um, and we started they oh, he's a martial artist or something, so they wanted me to do an after school program, and I was doing like kickboxing, and I was telling them like you want me to do jujitsu, and um, they allowed me to do it like the next term that they were doing for after school classes, and God gave me so much confidence in that, because that program supported all the other after school programs. And even more so, as their teacher, like I knew what they were like during the day. And to watch them put a gi on and like help each other and sit and wait, I was just like, and the parents, you could see it in their eyes. Like my students, you couldn't bring them to a school and just put them on the mat. Like it's not happening. Um, so I think that they got a slice of, this is what the general population gets to experience. And what, so I ruptured my ACL, and I had to leave all that. So, seeing that look on the parents' faces, that's on my heart. So that I'm still doing that. So, and I also started a program for vets. So post deployment challenges, and it's everything that you said. They sacrificed for their country, and um, you know some of the wounds they have you can see, some of them you can't see. And when I was talking to the philanthropists or whatever in the city, um, I would tell them, they broke them down in the context of an individual. They broke them down like you can only identify yourself in this group, and they're used to order, they're used to rank, they're used to drilling, they're used to so many things that are found inherently on a jiu-jitsu mat. And I'm not the only person who thinks this thing. I mean, like Jocko Wilneck or whatever, like he's a black belt and he's a Navy SEAL, so he gets it and utilizes it and uses it. And I'm excited to see what God does with all those things. But that's how I tried to give back. And I think those are the things that God put on my heart when everybody was like, get a job. I was like, he just kept me with the kingdom mindset, and I didn't realize it.
I love that the notion of the kingdom mindset, because everything, whether they want to believe it or not, whether everything is going to lead you to wherever God wants you to be. The thing is, though, you have to imagine how fast you'd move if you chose to move with the current instead of against it. And I know for a fact I watched God speed you down the stream once you said yes and committed, because the program started coming, the people started coming, your life started turning around, and you were telling me, man, I'm just trying to keep up. And from somebody that, you know, had their struggles in life and now getting to the point where they can teach somebody, that's phenomenal in itself. Folks, if you don't get anything else, please understand that his sacrifice for this art has changed so many lives. It's not just his ability to choke out somebody that's 10 foot or whoever it is, or toss somebody. And I have seen him toss somebody 2 times his size. We have that video. It's more so about being able to transition what you learn to someone else, to pass it on to someone else. And you've done that. I want to get a little bit technical quickly, because I know everybody is dying to know. Like, who is the biggest person you faced, and how was that battle?
Um, the first two people that so that place around the corner from my parents' house it was a magical place. And you know I feel like those experiences and those scenarios aren't lived forever. That's what makes them so special. And again, this is like 2000, so the UFC is not a big deal. um, this isn't Bohemia, but yeah. Speaking about veterans, this guy in the blue, um, who's being gracious and freakishly strong by keeping me up here. Usually when we do flying arm bars, it doesn't end so hard beautifully. But yeah, he's a Silver Star winner, and when I tell veterans what he did to receive that, they don't believe me. And you find that a lot in jiu-jitsu, just really special people with really remarkable stories, and hard to believe. From Mansoor to Dante, you were talking about Anthony, like he's one of, and he's another vet. Um, I'm so grateful for him in my life, and he's about to become a black belt, and you know
Anthony?
that's what it's all. Anthony, oh yeah, yeah, he just got his
Wow.
brown belt, and yeah, um,
And folks, if you don't know who Anthony is, he is good friends, and the guy is around 6'3". I don't know if he's still like 200 and something pounds, like, but the dude was a monster. So him
yeah,
being
he's a
black
freak.
belt is like,
What?
no, I said him becoming a black belt is just like, whoa.
Yeah, he's all in. He's all in. Like it's the same. It's you see it in people. It's the only thing he can do, and he's a veteran that we would try to do this to, but he got it. So Anthony, let me just say this: before he was in the service, um, it was a heat wave on Long Island, like 104 or something ridiculous, and the man walked from like 3 towns over, walked, trained, scared everybody there, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm signing up," and it's been a great friendship. Yeah, he's he helps me too, man. Like and that's the thing, the camaraderie that's inherent there. Like a lot of guys have a hard time just just transitioning, and they isolate themselves. And I mean, it's an inviting culture for them, and I don't want to say names or anything like that, but there are people that just went through horrific things, and they were in that place of self medication and isolation, and jujitsu, getting on the mat. That's what got him out of it. And um, yeah,
See, and
I probably avoided your question again,
it's okay,
of
man.
tangents.
No, no. I love it because I actually wanted you to tell the story of the Silver Star vet because I want to give
Yeah.
everybody some context to the type of people that you constantly interact with because it's those stories that really sell home how, and we're going to get to this deeper, but how God allowed you, made you submit. So, can you tell us about that story with the Silver Star veteran that you train with? And for those, for everybody that may not know, it is the guy in the blue in the thumbnail photo. I'll put the photo back up in a second. But Greg, tell us about that story about how he became
So
Sylvian. Yeah, go for it.
how we got it. Um, Dante is a gigantic human being. He's bigger than Anthony, taller than Anthony, and so in Amsterdam, kickboxing is the equivalent of video games over there. So everybody is kickboxing. Um, the Dutch kickboxers are, the elite level. And he just walked in there, started doing kickboxing, and immediately became like a bodyguard and security at places. And like it's a tough it's a tough town. But that was Disneyland compared to where he came from. And Dante was probably one of the first vets that opened up about what he did. And admittedly, I probably didn't understand at that point in my life about post deployment issues, and injuries that you can see, injuries you can't see. And I'm grateful that I could still pick up the phone and talk to him. But the guy was a medic in the Gulf, and so they were under attack. And his job is to. Yeah, I got another story about another vet who doesn't do jiu-jitsu, so maybe I won't. But um, Dante, he was under attack. His job is to, tourniquets, make sure guys don't die. Like that. That's his job. It's not grunt work. Um, they went under a heavy assault and ambush, and this is people don't believe this, but he took off the gun that's on top of the armored vehicle, which nobody believes this. And yeah, so he dismantled it. He put it on the ground, and he's firing this thing, and like it's unbelievable for vets because it's a Herculean effort. Like it doesn't seem like a man would be able to do that, but the military did, and they rewarded him for single-handedly like repelling back the ambush, doing that. Special people in jiu-jitsu, and Dante was the first one to sort of like help my mind understand what my heart was feeling.
That's phenomenal. Like, folks, these are the type of people that Greg is in contact with that he's helping by training with them, talking with them, all because he was in the place where God put him. And I think there's something to be said about, we often use the phrase right place, right time, but I often switch that and say God's place, God's time. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing that happens outside of his jurisdiction. And because you were in those places, you were able to meet those amazing people and they helped you lock in on something that it's helped to change so many different lives. So now in the same, you all saw what it was, but it's you know interacting with so many amazing people that have done things that no one will ever see or hear. But because you were there, you were able to now tell their story and just tell amazing things about how God kept somebody. even if he didn't believe. Look at how he kept those soldiers, those people, and now you can tell that story. Whether people believe it or not doesn't matter. We know that we know that if the military recognized that, hey, some part of that got to be true. I want to
Yeah.
continue, and I want to talk to you. Talk to me about that moment that you submitted to God. For some context, let me explain. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the way that someone wins a match is you have to tap out. You've seen it in UFC, you've seen it, in several MMA shows or battles. You have to, when you get into a lock or a hold, it's not like a physical fight where somebody gets knocked out. You may go to sleep or you may pass out, but it's through grappling, and it's a ground war where you're going at it. No punches are being thrown, but your object is to make your opponent submit to through whatever position you put them in. Talk to me about how God made you tap.
Isn't it funny, right? I was thinking about this question, and I was talking to you about it and stuff, and I kept like remembering. So I went with Mansoor. We went to Spain, and we did like a DVD series, and he was inducted into something. Um, and I think we were going between Valencia, and uh, geez, I want to say Madrid actually. Um, we were on a long train ride going through Spain, and I grew up in the church, and that doesn't mean I was a good Christian. That doesn't mean that I was walking in truth with him the whole entire time. It wasn't, and because I knew I had those flaws in me, I would put myself around people that I thought were men of God, and that's what Mansoor was. Um, Besides the red belt jujitsu guy, and he told me, he's like on the train, he's like, only God can connect your heart and your mind. Your heart and your mind are two different things. And um, here I am, a black belt in an art that the whole purpose is you don't submit. And the most freeing thing I ever experienced, the most rewarding thing I ever experienced was when I submitted to God. And that, my friend, happened because of you. And um, I don't even know what to say about all of this. Can I tell that story?
Go
Or
for
am
it.
I jumping? So John came into the I have no idea who the man is. I grew up in the church. I said that. At this point in my life, I was fully in love with the organism that was Greg Ronfola, and I was toughest. I was just all these things just consumed in myself and in the world, and miserable. Um, and there John comes in. He lights up a room when he comes in, and the gym that we worked in downstairs, it wasn't a lot of foot traffic. Like, it was invite only, and John got invited, and he asked me to do something that made me super uncomfortable. And like he said, I if you go put on a UFC fight, like, you're probably gonna see the guy that I sent him to, and I thought it was over and done with, and You know, so I made this little path through the college, the campus, where I wouldn't bump into anybody. And that's how I was. Like, I would put headphones on and not listen to music just to avoid conversations. And if you put me on a mat or you put me in the gym, I was a superstar. You took me off that mat, took me out of the gym, I was this, I didn't want to be I just wanted to avoid everything. And you found me there in that parking lot. I'm trying to do my routine where nobody bumps into me, and I'm trying to say no again. And then the man of God let me know that he was a man of God. And even though I was lost, like, I'm trying to think about like messages to give across. Like, I want to encourage mothers or wives, and they've been praying over their loved ones for years, and you know, wanting them to have a relationship with God. Like the only thing they want is that, and keep keep saying those prayers, because if I can testify that even when I was lost, even when I was consumed by the world, when the man of God identified himself, I submitted. So when did I submit to God? That day in the parking lot with you. That's when I submitted to God. That's when I was like, enough of this like tourist, like I visit a church or I belong to a church and I don't walk my walk like a Christian should. Um, Me saying yes to you, me submitting to the request that the man of God was giving me started a chain of events that, you know, have just been coming, I'm still going through those changes to this day. So that's when all of this started. You asked me to do it. I eventually said yes because I thought I was doing it for God, and I
I didn't. Yeah,
I lost all my friends. I lost all my friends, and God has taken them little by little. So it started with this one submission to John, this thing that I don't do for anybody, anything, and he just started taking, again, encouraging the people that may hear this, like encouraging you to keep praying, because there wasn't a thing about me that would say that I was a Christian. But yeah, it all started in that parking lot on that day, for sure.
I didn't. I didn't
I mean,
know.
here I am talking to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I didn't know. I honestly, I didn't know that. I thought you were going to say something else. That is that you actually caught me off guard with that one. Well, you know what? To
Sorry.
glory, I'm glad that you said yes. For whatever reason God put in your heart, because you truly helped change my life, man. And like whether it was, just teaching me little things in jujitsu and me being able to hang around you and go to Port Jeff and go to wherever you were and tell your story, that was single handedly one of the toughest moments of my life. But as it's I can hear the parallels, and I believe that's why God put us together, because as tough as it was for me during that time, it was even learning from you today that it was even tougher for you. And I bless God for you, my friend, because you were a bright spot in an incredibly tough time when I was going through that and trying to tell the story. So many people told me, truth be told, the first time I'm ever saying this, no, so many people told me not to tell the story and wanted me to go back to the story of the fighters that you had, sent to me, who people actually can watch on UFC to this day. Um, and it was the one place where God put in my spirit and said, "Do it. Just don't. So what they're telling you no. So what they're threatening your grade or criticizing." And I said, you know what, God, you are absolutely right. I don't listen to them anyway. We're gonna do this story. It's gonna be dope, and we're gonna. And there was so much I was learning at that time. But the one thing that was a blessing, I never forget. You and I went to go. I forget where we were going. We were going one of the times we were going to Port Jeff, and we were driving from Brooklyn College in that same parking lot to go. And I was actually fasting that day. And we were
Oh
talking,
man.
and you looked over to me, and you was like, "What's going on with you? Like, you feel like in a different dimension." And I forgot what I said to you. I just remember us talking and getting into the fact that, you know what, when God tells you to do something, you just do it, and you know that eventually down the line something is going to pay off. What I am honored not just to know you as a friend, but to be able to know your story. One of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that we spoke about your story today is because I believe that you have the power and the ability to inspire so many people. So I wanted to be one of the first to put you on a platform. But, well, while I may be one of the first, it is not going to be the last, because The amount of people that you have helped in private are about to be blessed by you in public, and the amount of the effort of people that you have poured into privately with nothing in return. This guy used to train Al Roker. This guy used to train celebrities. This guy, like, he could have easily gone somewhere and made a bunch of money, but he said yes to God. And he said yes to God path, this which oftentimes may not have given him financial security. But he chose God's path, and he went and did it anyway, and God tripled his life. He chose God's path, and even if he didn't realize he was choosing God's path at the time, he went a direction, and he realizes now, you heard him say it, that to God be the glory, because all of those things that transpired now got him to this point. Greg, I want you to bring it home for us about the importance. You can talk to you had mentioned talking to the mothers, you had mentioned talking to the family members and encouraging them. I want you to continue that, and I want you to continue to talk to them. Say what God put in your heart when it comes to talking to their family members. Please continue.
Don't submit. Don't submit, mothers and fathers and wives and husbands. Don't brothers, sisters. Don't don't give up on them, regardless of what you see. Um, God was in my heart. I may not have been showing that, and I may have done everything I wasn't supposed to be doing as a follower of Christ. But, you know, for the very fact that I could tell and I could respect you once I realized what was really going on. Like, this is a spiritual thing, Greg, and you were raised in this. You know this, and I mean, if you're praying for somebody and you're like, yeah, but this guy, is look at his work ethic and stuff like that. Like, believe me, I had things in my life that, I drive to work now, and there's a clinic. It's like a commercial suite, medical suite sort of. They have like a lot of buildings in a parking lot. One of them is, a treatment facility, and you see people, just they're disheveled. They're waiting for public transportation, maybe if it comes. And they just left the clinic they need to be treated for the things that they allowed in their lives. When I passed them, that absolutely could have been me. And I think, and this is where the awesome thing is with God. I think I was at that precipice when I met you. I think that's right where I was, and you know, me submitting to the request that you gave started the changes that was answering the prayers that were said about me for all these years. And you know something else that's on my heart, there's a feeling, anxiety and depression and these things that you can't see, that I'm not telling my whole story, but I guarantee you that there are periods in my life where you wouldn't think I was a black belt at anything, and just consumed with the lies that I allowed the enemy to whisper into my ears. And you know, my motto, my black belt, like, I know stuff, but I feel like the black belt represents more than anything. Like, I refuse to stay down. Like, I always got back up. I may have been knocked out. I got back up. I may have been knocked out in a coma. I woke up. I got up. Like, that's the defining thing, and that seems impossible sometimes. You're drowning in that mindset. But God is good, and if I could sit here and talk about things that He's doing in my life, He'll put a John McLeod in your life, and you know it may be, now that we're in this different time, it may be something on YouTube that you see that speaks to you and heals you. But I had to submit to God, but that was the most freeing thing, that allowed all these things into my life. I needed to get out of my way and allow God to do his thing. And his thing was uncomfortable. His thing invoked fear inside of me. But, 10 years later, here we are. I'm part of the church. Like, God is touching people in my life around me. And, I'm just stoked that I have things that I could use for the kingdom. And be encouraged and get up would be the two things I would want to share. Just get up.
Mm.
Mike, so one of the vets I used to work with, and he wrote a really encouraging thing one time, and I kind of had given up. It's hard blowing out your ACL doing the thing to help people. It's that was something I had to adjust to. But he wrote something online, and I came across it accidentally, and he was like, "Just show up." Greg was like, "Just show up, just show up." And so I didn't do well fiscally or monetarily with jujitsu and stuff like that, but I, I I have wealth in what God is doing. Like I'd much rather, hear well done, thy good and faithful servant, and
Come
know
on.
that the things that I did on earth are my wealth and not a Lamborghini. Doors like this.
No, that that is a sermon in itself, and I think the beautiful part about your journey and your story is the fact that so many times in life you were knocked down. You ruptured your ACL for the very art you committed to a decade ago in helping people. You sacrificed your body and your time and your mind helping people. And sometimes the payment was pain. And but the beautiful thing that I want people to understand is sometimes even when the payment is pain, it is only a preparation for what's to come. He went through all of that pain so that somebody else could learn how to deal with their anxiety and their depression. He was dealing with his own things, but he went through all of those things to help somebody get through what they were going through. And that sacrifice is completely and utterly commendable because of your commitment. And the, you said it beautifully. The goal is not to have a Lamborghini. It's not to have all of these beautiful things. All that glitters is not gold. The goal is to have and hear those words, well done. When it's all over, when everything is over, when you've sung your last song, when you fought your last match, when you've helped your last person, the one thing you want to hear, it was all worth it if you hear, well done. And I believe, my brother, as long as we continue to go, that's exactly what we're going to hear. And that's the goal. That's the goal of what we want to hear. Nothing else matters until we get to that point where we hear those words, because what else is it all for then?
Right.
What else is it all for if it's not to hear those amazing words from our King? The last thing I would say, if somebody wanted to get into, what are some ways, before I get to that question, what are some ways that people can think about as like, hey, I want to get into jujitsu. I'm looking for ways to, manage my mental health, feel a little bit more confident, feel a little bit more secure in myself. What are some ways, what are some jujitsu practices that people can take home, take away?
So I think that's the thing. With jujitsu, you need to interact. You need your tribe. And I was thinking about this with the first topic that you wanted to talk about, and um, who's your tribe? Like, oh, you're a warrior. Are you doing that by yourself, really? Like, no, there's no warrior by themselves. Like, they have a tribe that pushes them. Um, you were speaking about Davidson. Like, I don't like being the best person in the room. Actually, if I'm if I'm not the worst person in the room, I don't want to be in it. And that's not because I'm defeatism, but like it'll push me to places that I couldn't take myself to. So, I would go to a school, and you have to feel comfortable with the school. And it may not even be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It may be a Muay Thai school. It may be a judo school. It may be, you put your kids into a wrestling program. Like the whole combat sport mentality, really is just a lot more than physical. Like there's a lot of mental there. And, you know, find the tribe, find the school, and put the axe to the grind with that. And the more you put in, the more you will get out.
No, I love that. I love that because it is the camaraderie that helps you overcome. The enemy wants to isolate you. And one thing that you said, so I can recap so people don't forget this, is find your tribe, but also find your style. It may not be Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. It may be getting together with some saints and just reading the word together.
Amen.
That may be your practice. But the goal is to find your tribe of people. Surround yourself. You become that which you join yourself with. Find your set of people that can help you get to the next level. That's one. And then find the style. What is the thing that activates you? Greg found Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I love Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I wish I had more time to train it. I would be all up in it. But if it's not Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, it's basketball, it's calisthenics for me. And
Right,
in
right.
those things, I find ways to incorporate God. In all thy ways, acknowledge him, and he will do what? Direct your path. So
Direct
now
that path.
it is what Greg is saying is to find your tribe and find your style, and God will do the rest. God will absolutely do the rest. Greg, man, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I'm believing that you have changed some lives. Let me tell you, you can count one, and that's me. You've changed my life, my brother, and I can't thank you enough. So many people in the chat have been they were so happy and chiming in. I tried to throw as many up on the screen as I could, but
I could read them.
yeah, but man, that's because your light is shining, and that's the one thing I wanted to do today was to give you a platform to shine because the amazing thing that God is doing in your life is unmatched by any. Only you can do the things God set for you to do. And your story is phenomenal. You help people with mental health conditions, vets, people, children with disabilities. So look at all of those amazing things that God has allowed you to do, even through the pain. And you answer the call. So, my brother, I want to say thank you for answering the call today. Thank you for being on Temple Talk. If there's anything you need help with, I'm always a call or a text away. Before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to say before we shut down?
Yep. This is my tribe, right? COVID sort of messed up training, and God put this tribe in my life, and the rewards are better than jujitsu. So, just thank you and your family. I don't know. If it weren't for the mercy of the Lord, I would have surely been consumed. And I'm just so grateful that I wasn't, and that I have you and your family and everybody in the congregation as my tribe during, like, right, once in a lifetime experience. You guys drew me closer to God, people in my life closer to God, and find your tribe. It may only be in YouTube videos, but you'll know it when you feel it.
Thanks so much, Greg. That is phenomenal. You heard the man. Y'all got homework to do. Make sure you go out and take action immediately. Brother, I love you. I care about you. And to everyone watching, thank you so much. I love you. I care about you. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Thanks so much for watching
Love
Temple
that.
Talk. We'll see you next time.
Amen.